'Cause I will rise, you can't hold me down. Watch me unfold, I'll keep it strong. And I won't hide, I will live it loud. Through highs and the lows, I won't let go. Undeniable.
Which is pumpkin and carrot with some dill, pine nut, and yogurt.
Yum.
This is your za'atar with dry yogurt and some sesame seeds that you're gonna spread on a bread. Hot hummus with some pastrami and parsley remoulade.
Hot hummus. How hot we talking?
Warm.
Okay. Alright, so we went on this little sourdough journey. So that's Sam's rye one. This is Matilda. We've been doing this for, I think, almost 2 weeks at this point. Now it's time to head to the movies with our cinematic crusader. Here with another titanium take, here's our movie maven Kai.
Well, hey there everybody, it is I, your movie maven Kai, and quick update, it's hot, like, it's uncomfortably hot, like, it's not fun anymore, and as we all know, I am much more the fall girly than the summer girly, but you know, the last decade or so, here in Los Angeles, it's the same. It's the same. We get a few days of, cool weather and we go, ooh, it's getting cool. And then we get, hit with a heat wave, the end of September, beginning of October, which is always fun. It's not. And also, as we know, I am a big fan of, the summer blockbusters. And I talked in the previous video about like how I hadn't been able to go and see anything. I'm so far behind. But I did get a chance to sit on my couch and watch Thunderbolts, which I absolutely loved. I was not expecting it. It's emotional, you guys. It's really emotional, but it's actually an incredibly good movie. And I did get a chance to go see Fantastic Four with the family, and that was really fun. I absolutely loved it. I love what they're doing with it. I love what they're doing to, bring Marvel's first family, into everything. And I think it was a great take. But we are now deep into back to school time. Back to school time is, it's a stressful time for everybody, not just those, attending school, but those that teach school, those that work at a school, those that have kids that are going to school. And there's a lot going on right now that, is very scary. And, so I was thinking about my favorite, disastrous school movie that gets a lot of controversy now. Like, you would not be able to make this movie now, considering all the things that have happened from about the mid-90s on. But I still love it because it takes the content and the conversation in such a ridiculous way and makes it consumable in that way. And that movie is Heathers. If you've not seen Heathers, it's an absolutely amazing movie. But, I feel like you do kind of have to put that discretionary tag before it that, there's going to be a lot of content in it that is incredibly triggering to a lot of people. But if you look at it through the right lens, it really shows how, it came out in the 80s. It really shows how a lot of the things that we're dealing with in schools now that people are still refusing to deal with. Bullying and violence and, cliques and harassment and Mean Girls and all of that stuff. It shows how that's always been an issue and how no matter what people think that they're remedying, it's not fixing anything. And we have to really look at things from a much deeper and different perspective, like that of which, or from which the people that it's actually happening to. If you haven't seen it, it's Christian Slater, Winona Ryder, Shannon Doherty. It's, another 80s mix-up of, not the Brat Pack, but definitely, people that got their beginnings in the 80s. And it's a movie about Winona Ryder plays Veronica, among this clique, this group called the Heathers. All of them have, the same first name, Shannon Doherty being one of them. And they go to school. They're very, we wouldn't have Mean Girls without this movie. They are very much that clique of girls that you have to be a very specific kind of way. It's the fashion club in Daria. It's, all of those, that kind of trope. And I say trope, but I mean, I think we all went to school with a pack of these girls, and some people are like, oh, it was the cheerleaders. And other girls were like, well, it was the rich girls. And other people, but there's always been that pack of girls that were very exclusionary, that, looked down on everyone else, but they were the queens because they were popular for one reason or another. And new guy comes to school and he's, this dark, brooding, emo before emo was a thing, guy named JD, played by Christian Slater, who, at this point in his career was pretty much being typecast in this role because of the way he sounded, because of the way he looked. He was always that guy. And I think he was kind of that guy until maybe Interview the Vampire. And, even after that, you see even the stuff that he's done in the recent past and you go, oh, he's still that guy. But he shows up and, you know, kind of takes Veronica out of that clique. You know, he is somebody who takes that attention, you know, away from the Heathers and kind of shows her like, you know, they're both weirdos and both outcasts in some way. And so they find, you know, comfort in each other. But then you realize that JD's home life is terrible. And, you know, he's kind of on his own as this teenager, left to his own devices. And what his parents don't know is that he's building bombs in the garage. So again, stuff that, you know, has made its way into our cultural psyche in America specifically. And his whole thing is that he's going to blow up the school. And, you know, before that, you've got, you know, poisoning the classmates and, you know, all this crazy, you know, absolutely ridiculous stuff that I think we all watched in the 80s and kind of went like, this is satire, and then realized that it happens, you know, because, you know, the 90s were not a time when people suddenly discovered violence in schools. You know, you talk about like, you know, Kent State, and you talk about like all of these different things. The reason why people don't have the solid memory of them that they do, you know, things from the 90s forward really is the internet. You know, we had these people talking about it. We had people sharing information. We had people doing memorials every year and, you know, all of these things. So, you know, the violence and everything that you see in schools and among, you know, specifically this age group, when you talk about bullying and you know, bad thoughts, we'll leave it at that. You know, you see it much more, and it's kind of in your face. But I think at the time, a lot of people saw it as this kind of raw, you know, satire. And a lot of people, you know, for a while were like, oh my gosh, to have a relationship like JD and Veronica, where it's just two weirdos. And it's the same people that romanticize, you know, the relationship between Joker and Harley Quinn. You know, you think when you find your weirdo, when you find your freak, when you find this, but you realize like how dangerous those kinds of relationships are for both sides. You know, if you have someone who's being abused, if you have them, you know, acting as an enabler, you know, it's a big roundabout of problems. And so I reference this movie a lot. They made a musical of it a few years ago. I didn't see it. I didn't care to see it. I'm not a big fan of, you know, let's make everything into a musical, but it did bring the movie back into the lexicon. It brought it back into, you know, the pop culture of things, more in a positive way, because people were talking about like, this is nothing new. Why hasn't anything changed? And I feel like that's something that, you know, I dealt with when I was in high school. I mean, I graduated class of 2000, so a lot of stuff happening around that time that was, you know, there was a focus on. And, you know, I've got 3 kids, you know, class of 2018, class of 2020. And then, you know, my youngest just started his first year of middle school. And, you know, all 3 of them have had their share of bullying for whatever reason. You know, the fact is it's, you know, similar reasons to why I was bullied. It's similar reasons that you hear, you know, almost the cliche of, you know, people being bullied. And it's, you know, you try to do your best and you try to bring a light to it, and you try to, you know, get people to be as angry and, you know, upset and consequential as you would like to be. And when we said it takes a village, you know, the village needs to, you know, all be on the same page. So if you're a parent, if you have kids that are close to you, if, you know, you have any kind of influence on a younger generation at all, specifically if they are still in school, even if it is, you know, junior college or, you know, college in general, make sure that you are a space that they feel okay talking to, so that they can get the support that they require for their experience to be better. I can point to a lot of things that are better now than when I went to school, things that are better now than even when my older kids graduated. But it's still rough, you know, and I feel like watching movies like this, and even the John Hughes movies, things like The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink, you know, they all sort of spotlight those things that we maybe forgot about, or maybe we specifically didn't experience, but it makes you realize that people around you are their own entities, that they're their own people with their own experiences. And so if you see something happening, maybe you have a little bit more of an ability to empathize, or to stand up for, or to change, or to, you know, because when you've got an angry parent yelling, you know, at an administrator in an office, you know, it so often just falls on deaf ears. But if you have your kids, your students, your, you know, really sort of standing up and saying, this is how I want my school to be, you're more likely to have that environment change, because it does have to really kind of resonate with those people. The people in it have to change it. The expectation has to change. They have to be willing to speak up, you know, to the people who are doing these things, who are doing the bullying, who are, you know, more likely to have those violent proclivities. And you know, either reach out and try to support, or reach out and try to stop. And that's so incredibly important. So make sure that if you do have that influence, that you are putting that across to those younger people, because that's where the change really needs to happen. Because it's very obvious the adults have no idea what they're doing. It's the sad truth. Not to end on a downer, you know, because it's a great movie. It's very funny. It is very satirical. And I feel like the longer that we go in life, like the more we look at it and go like, God, it's a little too real. It hits a little too close to home, because now we do understand a little bit more the lives of other people. And again, you know, you can demonize social media all day long and for 100 different reasons. And I will absolutely agree with you. But having those snapshots into people's lives really has afforded us a little bit better of understanding. And if you hear people talking about those people without empathy, without understanding, without the intention or the want to reach out and support, be the person that tells them that sucks. Don't be that person, you know? It's September, it's hot, but spooky season is upon us. The pumpkin spice latte is upon us. I have had, let's see, it came out August 26th. It's not weird that I know that. I've had like 4 pumpkin cream cold brews, non-dairy, so far. And I plan on having several more. But also, you know, you want to watch it because I am planning some kind of a fun Halloween costume. And mine usually end up having, you know, a reasonable amount of lycra and body contour. So I would like my body shaper not to exceed the price of my Halloween costume, but we'll see, because pumpkin spice is everywhere and it's so good. And enjoy it, guys. Enjoy it, because it's, you know, it only comes around this time. And it's more important to have those things that you enjoy, that you indulge in moderation, and be happy with that and the joy that brings and the experience that it can give you, than it is to, you know, be stick thin. You know, Kate Moss once famously said, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. And I object, because pumpkin spice and pumpkin in general and cinnamon and apple and all the wonderful things that, you know, we get to spend the next, you know, few months indulging in are pretty great. So while you do that, while you're indulging in moderation, remember to also drink your water and take your meds and do a little something for yourself. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being here.